Are we good? Thank you. Welcome everybody to the school committee meeting of January 23rd, 2024. Before you have an agenda. May I have an approval?
So moved.
Yeah. All in favour?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Welcome everybody. I'm going to start by public comment. If there is anyone here tonight who would like to be recorded on public comment. I'm looking around the room. I don't see anybody, so we will move straight on to the superintendent's report, please.
Sure. Good evening, everybody. So I'm going to start with, and I'll call Mrs. Vassell to come up to the podium. We do have the announcements for the John and Abigail Adams Scholarships Awards. So just to give a little context, the Adams Scholarship Awards are merit-based program. It's a merit-based program that gives 1 credit per semester for up to 8 semesters towards undergraduate degrees from in-state higher education institutions in the Massachusetts state college system. So this would be UMass Boston, UMass Amherst, Framingham, Bridgewater, all of the state colleges that are in that organization. Students who are eligible for this scholarship must score in the advanced category in either math, ELA, or science on the 10th grade MCAS exams with at least a proficient score, or perhaps advanced as well, for the other 2 assessments. But the minimum requirement is 1 of the 3 tests must be an advanced score. And I'm going to turn this over to Randy to tell us more about the students.
Did you tell them the dollar amounts that they
I did
received?
not. I just talked about credits. So
Okay.
I'll let you do that.
Should I share that?
Please.
Do I need to do this?
For the television, yes.
Okay, sorry. So we met with our students, and our students aren't here. They were given the option because some have obligations in the evening, but they have received their letters, and I am very happy to announce who those students are. We have 31 of the class of 2024 who have earned this distinction. I explained to the students today that the letters that they receive, it's like money, so don't lose it. I actually have 2 additional copies just in case. The dollar amounts are based on which school that they choose. If it's one of the UMass schools, it's about $1,500. If it's another state university, it equals about a little over $1,000, and they even include the community colleges, and it's $750. Now that's per year for all 4 years that they go to school there. So that's a pretty good amount. That's helpful and very helpful for some families. So I would just like to recognize those seniors that received this distinction, and thank you very much for allowing us to be here to do so. We have Rowan Blake, Colton Chambers, Aiden Condon, Henry Crosby, Lauren Cutone, Shay Dwyer, Hawken Edwards, Archie Ferguson, Ella Mae Fox, Anya Friedman, Hannah Girardi, who's in a swim meet right now, Chloe Gervin, Joan Harris, and she's actually playing basketball right now, Ella Hofford, Sam Iller, Benton Killian, Kenick King, Bailey Lower, Chloe Marrero, Claire Martin, Rocky Monto, Sienna Monto, Alice O'Banion, Anna Popnikolova, Charlie Ryden, Stephen Rivera, Leslie Rivera Racinos, Karina Valdez, Marley Viselli, Jason Yarmy, and Bruna Jenzura. And I'm going to make Bruna come up and accept it with us.
Nice job.
I did say to our seniors whenever we handed this out that while they may not think that they need this because they have thoughts of going somewhere else to school, I said you never know. And plans always change, and you want to make sure you have a fallback, so make sure you don't lose this because it is just like having money in your hand. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And are the names going to be in the paper?
We can send them to the paper, absolutely.
Because I think that's important.
Yeah, absolutely. We will do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mandy.
Okay, so a few other things as part of the report. Access testing is, 'tis the season for testing. So our English learners and their teachers have been fully immersed in access testing with the Access for ELL's annual assessment. And it's usually held in January and February over the course of about 7 weeks. All students who identify as English learners, including those who have opted out of EL services, must take the access test every year. The test includes 4 domains, listening, reading, and then speaking and writing. 4 days is how long it usually takes. Each day would have 1 domain on that day. The test can range from 50 minutes to 90 minutes and beyond. It's not a timed test, so students do get as much time as they need. And it's definitely a time-consuming piece for them. But it is not there is no pass-fail, but the scores do provide us with information that will help determine what classes or level of services that each student will need. And that also includes whether or not students are ready to exit and be fully immersed in mainstream instruction. So currently 2 schools have completed testing and 2 more are still moving through. It just takes a little bit of time and logistics and scheduling. So having that window of 6 to 7 weeks is really helpful so that we can make sure that all students have the time and the ability to do that testing. We have struggled a little bit this year. We've had some wireless issues and luckily Joanne Johnson, our acting tech director, has been really helpful in moving us forward and helping us understand when the best time to test is, etc. But definitely we will be glad to be done in a little bit of time. So, any questions about that? Okay. I have a few other updates as well, particularly about chronic absenteeism. Commissioner Riley has shared with superintendents across the state that there is a new initiative to combat chronic absenteeism. Statistics over the last 3 years have shown that schools across the Commonwealth still struggle with children missing more than 10% of school. So that's 18 days of required 180 days of school. The Department of Education has offered grants to help districts provide alternative opportunities to make up credits and days. In some of the districts that has included Saturday instruction, vacation week, boot camps, things like that, different opportunities, after school tutoring, etc. It's not that structured, and it's still, there's a lot of question around that. However, schools are trying to find ways to be able to provide opportunities for students to make up time missed. Some of the missed time is based on illness. We do have illnesses that are going through our student body across the state, but also extended time away and a return to school after several years of different type of attention on attendance. So now we need to really kind of pick that up. One of the more important pieces is that that the State Board of Education will be meeting tonight, probably as we speak, to potentially vote on presented changes from the Department of Education to the current accountability system, which basically identifies a level in which schools are in percentages based on other schools, but also criterion referenced information where a school is based on, or school scores are based on improvement from each year, and there are targets for accountability. By changing the accountability system, there will be more weight placed on chronic absenteeism. We will certainly present the accountability system to you once the vote goes through, if it does, and it may not. But if it does, then it will mean some changes, and that means pulling away a little bit on achievement and adding more weight to chronic absenteeism, simply because if students are in school, they will achieve better. So it makes sense that by focusing on having students in school and getting students to school, we will see achievement scores rise. So putting a little bit more weight of accountability on absenteeism, it should bump up also accountability. Nantucket has actually done very well in offering ways to combat chronic absenteeism, but there is always room for improvement. The district leadership team is taking steps to brainstorm ideas around how to ensure a stronger attendance across the district. And so we are looking at how we can support students who either are out for extended period of times, either for travel, family travel, but also for extended illness. And we want to make sure that that we continue to approach absenteeism and approach attendance as a major success area for students' further success. So, like I said, in our accountability, we have hit our targets, which is good, but we want to make sure we are maintaining those targets as every year they change in the accountability system. So that's all I have.
Great. Any questions?
Do we ask the kids that are chronically absent why?
Oh, yes, yes. We have attendance hearings, we bring parents in, we send letters. There's a lot of attention to students and to them being chronically absent. We want to make sure that they understand what that means. So yes, we make it a point to kind of make it clear. Obviously, if there's an extended illness, we have to account for that and consider why that's happening. We do still have COVID. I mean, it's still there, and kids are knocked out for a good 5 days. So we have to consider that, and that's part of it. But how can we find ways to approach a better understanding of attendance and what it is that's causing children not to come to school? It could be illness, but there are other reasons as well, and it could also be that there's extended travel. So those are things that's difficult in our community based on the fact that we are a tourist-based economy in a lot of ways. So the summertime when students have time off from school, parents and families are working very hard. So their time off is during the school year. So we have to consider what that looks like, and perhaps that's part of our discussion as a district leadership team around how we help those families that tend to say, we have time in the middle of the winter, so we'd like to take an extended trip. So either way, it is an important area that we need to continue to focus on.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to presentations and discussions. We have a bullying update. I believe our principals or assistant principals will come up and report. Good evening.
Hello, Kim Albertson, Nantucket Elementary. This past year, academic year, we had one incident of bullying in our school. Sorry,
No, you're
see
fine.
you.
It's okay.
And it was something that was reported. We did interviews with students. We opened up an investigation, and unfortunately, at the end, the conclusion was a bullying determination, which we included parents, teachers, and all students involved.
Thank you, Kim.
Hello, Jen
Thank you.
Saradellis, Nantucket High School Assistant Principal. As you can imagine, with a school of 600 teenagers, we do have peer conflicts that happen. We've had 10 documented peer conflicts, although other minor things. We've had no formal bullying reports. We did have one incident that was considered harassment. The student was consequenced as such, but no formal bullying reports have been brought forward or investigated this school year.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Donna Johnson, the assistant principal at NIS, and thankfully, so far this year, we haven't had any bullying investigations or findings. What we usually find is that we do end up with some bullying investigations when our SEL, our guidance counselors, do bullying lessons with our class. So, we're ready for it. It's generally an opportunity for us to work with kids, counsel them through, remediate and mediate, and put together safety plans if needed. But so far this year, we don't have any investigations or bullying findings.
Hi,
Hello.
Adrian Lombardi, Cyrus Pierce Middle School Assistant Principal, and we've had 0 bullying investigations or cases at school. It's been a nice change.
Thank you. Any questions for any of
Well,
our?
how do we assess online bullying?
I got it.
He's taking this for the team.
So the way kind of the language around bullying works is whether it's happening in school or out of school. If it's impacting a student's school day, we're involved. And so what we know is only what we know. So what's brought forward to us, often it can at times come up through our school counselors or, hearing rumblings among students. But it's addressed the same way if it's impacting the student's school day and how they feel in school.
Any other questions?
If I may clarify,
Yeah.
just to give a little context, the state does require that we share the number of bullying cases every year. We do have a bullying policy, and we also have a curriculum that is required through CASEL, which is part of our SEL work. So it is important that we keep on top of bullying instances. Often it is it's a very clear determination with guidelines as to how you determine whether it's bullying or whether it's teasing or harassment or a one-time event. So there's definitely some specifics to whether or not an event was a bullying event or whether it was something different. So just wanted to make that clear.
Go ahead, Tim.
Does this information include the athletic teams?
Only if it happens during school property. We really haven't had any issues and nothing has ever come up through that, but yes.
It seems every year when we have these reports, and I know I've asked the question before, that I know it's so specific, and the state has really clearly defined what is bullying and what is not. But I wonder, from our parents' point of view, or even from some of our students, how do we delineate or how do we share in general? Because I think that we'd be foolish to think that everything's kumbaya, right? That there aren't any mean words said or spitefulness or teasing. And so I know we have programs in place, but I wonder how we go about sharing the supports that are available for parents for when their children come home crying because XYZ happened. And I understand, because I think I ask this not every year, but I know I've asked it before, it may not be defined as bullying, but how do we separate and and what do we do to support those students and families?
I don't have a full answer to your questions, but I can speak to Dr. Leprey's question. We did have an incident this year where students were being unkind to one another on the football field, and that was brought to my attention and Mandy's attention, and we were able to investigate that situation and work out that peer conflict. So to answer your question, if something happens on a field, in the gym, it is brought to our attention, and then the administrators do the investigating as to what's what, and then we issue consequences as necessary. So that's to answer your question. If you remember, when bullying became a household word, every unkind gesture was considered bullying, and so we had lots of people coming forward worried that they themselves were bullied, or maybe worried that they were a bully, and so we heard a lot more of it. Because we have really worked to define what is bullying, there are less true instances of bullying at this time. As you said, we'd be foolish to think it is all kumbaya. We're in a school of 600 teenagers. Lots of unkind things happen every day. And so through our restorative practices, and we've had lots of restorative conferences this year, we're working to help students work through their peer conflicts so that it doesn't become this targeted, repeated situation that we would consider bullying and would warrant a full investigation. But then you asked some other really good questions that I don't have full answers to, but I think they're good questions to be asking of us and how we're getting that information out to families.
Thank you, Jen.
You're welcome.
If I could just follow up, I do think, following up on what Jen said and also what Donna had said, we certainly use a great curriculum that helps our children. We work together, we see those spikes, but we also have a relationship with the Boys and Girls Club. So I meet with them every other week, and I do check-ins on kids in both the sister schools for the elementary, and we kind of just try to help empower them to use language we're using and empower students to know that adults are the people to go to that you may need help with, or your coaches, or whomever is there to talk about it. Because I do feel like what happens for my investigations are oftentimes I'll hear it and it'll be said, oh, that happened at the club. And so I kind of try to do a little teaching to the children and the staff, and then we do that sort of wrap around with the club on language and how to sort of dispel what's going on and also empower kids to feel stronger about who they are.
Thank you. Yep. All right. Thanks, everyone. So next up is Andrew Viselli, and he is going to talk about the Student Success Program. Come on up.
Andrew, would you like me to put your presentation?
Yeah, sure.
It'll take a minute, so you can vamp.
It's so real. Hi, I'm Andrew Viselli. I run the alternative program at the high school, the Educational Success Program. I think this year I have 45 kids, which is probably one of the lowest numbers I've ever had. Thank you, Deputy Aitley. Thank you, Mandy. Thank you, Jen. Thank you, everyone. With all the supports that have been brought into the schools, with the Bridge program and Rachel Berryweather and all the other support staff we have. So it's been great. I'm actually here tonight to talk about meditation in the class that we have at the high school, which is in our very first semester. Our class ends Friday. We started off with 15 kids. There's 11 kids who are with us now. And next semester, I believe we are over enrolled at 17 currently, and I suspect that that number is going to go up. I do have one of my students here in the class, Lyric Pearl, also plays volleyball for me, and Lyric is going to talk a little bit about their experience in the class and what that means. But I brought this to Jen and to Mandy about bringing meditation and or EQ into the school, and it's had such a profound effect on my life. I think I probably spoke to every single one of you here yesterday, right? So I realized the profound effect that it had on me, and since I've been practicing, I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of people, including Jen Saradellis, about what would happen if we got this to the kids. What effects would it have for the kids? And so what I've seen in some basic measurement scales that I've done, I've got 2 more to do with them, one at the end of the week and then one at the end of the year, to see where their mindfulness rating falls, to get those numbers. But that's why I had Lyric come to speak to it. I mean, we just had a class today where part of their finals week is they have to do 21 days of consecutive meditation twice a day. They have to write a 1-page paper on what is meditation. It can be anything, what it means to them, and then they have to guide meditation. And so they can speak, they can play something from an app, and then they run a circle similar to the restorative circles. And what we're bringing into the schools now, this is our class every day. We sit in a, you'll see, I think there's a picture up there. we sit in a circle, we open the circle, how's everyone feeling? We do the check-in, we offer an intention for the meditation of what we are dealing with. And so what I saw at the beginning of this class in September was, I feel good. And then good went around 15 times. I feel okay. And then it took one student to be like, I'm really anxious. I don't sleep at night. I get really nervous on Sundays. Can you elaborate? I push back my schoolwork, and then I'm overwhelmed, and then I shut down. Anxiety, depression, you name it. And then as we got into the holidays, this circle turned into a true healing circle of, I'm nervous. I'm nervous about going home. I'm going to see my family that I haven't seen in 3 years. I'm nervous because I don't know how they're going to accept me. And for high school students to share from the heart to a bunch of kids that they weren't friends with before, talks about the power, not of just a safe space that we all set up for these kids, but how they create that safe space. Each and every one of them has created this little space, which used to be the superintendent's office. Every one of you has probably been in there before. And they have turned it into this transformative place that when they walk through the door from my classroom into that meditation space, they feel better. They say they just want to go in there because it already calms them down. They feel safe in it. They share, they listen, they offer. They literally are guiding the other kids through their, well, I'm the teacher, they are the true teachers. And it's been an amazing, amazing process. And through the class, we've done meditation. I think after 7 days, I just double checked my notes, after 7 days, we were up to 20 minutes every single class meditating, which we have done predominantly through the entire course. We have read scientific studies on the benefits of meditation coming out of Harvard, and how after 8 weeks of twice a day, what happens neurobiologically, everything, plasticity, everything changes. And so we've watched some movies that have to do with meditation on healing, the mind-body connection. I'm just fascinated by the growth of these kids in terms of what they're stepping into and how willing they are to acknowledge their own lives and how the role they play in their own lives, which is hugely important. So I'll jump to this, and then we'll take pose. Okay. All right. All right, so here's just deeper under. I don't need to read it, but the ultimate goal for me was to get these guys meditating 20 minutes every single day. That was the goal. And if they did it during school, then they would go home and at night hopefully do their homework. And the homework was, we're going to meditate. That was the homework. If you could give me a minute, that's amazing. If you could give me 20 minutes, superb. That would be excellent. We know that alleviates stress, anxiety, depression, all the benefits, promotes positive thinking, and really what I just wanted the kids to do on top of the 20-minute every day was to start to acknowledge their role in their own lives, which translates into school. Why am I being successful in some classes? Why am I not being successful in other classes? Why are my relationships successful? How can I be more present at home? In fact, one student said, I want to be going into the holidays, I want to be present. Explain that to me. I want to be there. I want to enjoy my family. Explain that to me. What does that mean? They went deeper and deeper and deeper, almost to the point of joyful tears of, I just want everyone to love each other. That's it. And that's as simple as this gets. So that's pretty hoo-ha right there. All right, so we've got a couple articles that were written. The Inky and Mira came in and did one article for us. Veritas did another article. Oh, the picture didn't. No. Which was great, and they sat in with us. Jamie from the Inquirer Mirror came in, did a meditation. Even he said that this is really hard. This is really a challenge. Veritas came in. We had, I think Archie came in to take pictures, but Anna came in and sat in there and talked about it, about what it is and what we were trying to achieve. So those articles are there for you guys. So if you want to read them. This is the reason why I picked this, I went through about 10 different measurements because we have to have data on this, right? I know it's good. Everyone hears of that it's good, but this, no offense, Mandy wants data here, right? We've got to support this. So I went through about 10 different measurement scales and said which is the most fluid that I can give in the beginning, the middle, and the end of class that's going to allow me to measure where the kids are in terms of their mindfulness. But it's also 10 simple questions, right? So this isn't, it's not hard. And so I just took the form, I put it into a Google Forms, and so I have a bunch of Spanish speakers, English language learners, and they translated it, and so everyone was able to access it. These are the first wave of them. I didn't put the second wave in. I get upset with myself for having feelings that don't make sense. And again, you guys can look at all these, but they're just basic questions. And then the second wave of scoring, I won't say was so completely different, but the numbers dropped, and it's a reverse scale. So the numbers dropped on the ones that I was hoping they would, and which says these kids are now just simply taking the time to read it, and they're pausing a little bit more. And this isn't for a grade. This is just them doing it, that they understood this is part of this class, so and they all spread out and went to their different places, and it was really just, I'm excited to see what happens with the third and fourth ones. I think about things that have happened in the past instead of thinking about things that are happening right now. Those numbers all changed. Anyways, so boring, couple testimonials, my thoughts and feelings about this class, that I can change life and help calm you down. Yeah, and here's one. I honestly really look forward to our meditation class, and even switched into the semester 2 class. The class has helped me a great deal. I could walk into class in almost terrible mood and come out with a smile. And so, can I share something from yesterday? All right. So yesterday we were going in, and we were going into our meditation class. Lyric was nowhere to be found, which is odd, because Lyric's always the first one there. And so I got a phone call. Lyric's over here. I said, cool. Came to find me after class and said I didn't need to meditate today. I was going through some stuff. I had to do breath work. And went to a space and did some breath work because they had some energy that they needed to move in a positive way. That was without cueing. This is why this is what we're doing. And we're at 15 now. I would love to see the LGI filled with kids. I would love to see the auditorium filled with kids, every kid doing this. And then ultimately, obviously, I've spoken to some of you, I want the teachers doing this on their own. However, if we get them an app, it doesn't matter, as long as they're practicing. And so this is where I'm going to compare the 1 through 4s. I'll have everyone written down, and that's it. So Lyric's going to take over and share their experience with the class.
Meditation class is the class I look forward to the most out of pretty much every day. I love the class with all of my heart, and as Viselli was reading, I switched into his semester 2 class. It sounds like when you switch, when you're in the class, it sounds like it's gonna be just this easy A that you don't really have to try too hard in. But it takes a lot of work. To sit there and try to keep your mind not necessarily quiet, but I want to say still, if that's the right word. You're just constantly shooing away thoughts, you're observing them, and then being okay, I don't need this right now, and just sitting there as still as you can, and it helps you work through things. I struggle with anxiety and ADHD, and this class has helped me focus a lot more. It's helped me keep my cool in situations where I probably would have been panicking a lot. I think that pretty much everybody should be taking this class. I know that a lot of my friends, at least, have a lot of mental health issues that make them struggle with school and just even wanting to be there. And the kids in my class, I've noticed they're more present. Like, they were very closed off at the beginning of the school year, and now I'll have full-blown conversations with them in the halls, and I would have never thought to talk to them. That's kind of it. Like, it's such an amazing class. I absolutely love it.
Thanks, Larry. Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind just staying for a minute, just so we can see. Chantal, any questions or
No, thank
comments? Esmeralda?
I want to sign up for meditation. No questions. It sounds like a great program, a great class. And again, I wish I was taking some meditation. I use it a lot.
Bruna?
No questions, thank you.
Tim?
Sounds interesting. Sounds interesting. I mean, if you get that clarity without medication, it's important because you can always have that with you.
It's huge. It's huge. And I always tell everyone I'm 3.5 years sober, and I did it through meditation. And I know that's not for everybody, but it's worked for me. So.
I echo what's been said, and I think everybody, I agree, should be allowed the opportunity to be taught how to meditate and to come into yourself. Lyric, I'm wondering how you talk to your friends about this who are not participating in the program. Are they asking questions? Are you talking about it outside of the class?
I've learned that you can't necessarily, like, I want to say, like, talk about it, if that makes sense. Like, you can say, like, I really think that you should sign up for this class, like, I think you'll really enjoy it, but you can't really necessarily explain, like the class itself, if that makes any sense. Like, yes, I just explained it, but, like, to my friends, it wouldn't necessarily make any sense. They'd be like, what do you mean you sit there and you sit in silence, maybe with some background music, Viselli talking the entire time, and you feel better at the end? Like, that doesn't make any sense. They'd have to go in themselves and see it, and they'd have to want to be there for it to happen. Like, it's I want to say it's like a weird phenomenon that, like, isn't easily understandable.
Did you have any information or experience before going into the class the first time?
I had a little bit when we were younger. Like, I don't know if you know Mrs. Laredo. She would come into our classes in, like, 3rd grade and have us sit there, and I remember being like, meditation isn't for me, like, I can't get my mind quiet, because she was always like, keep your mind blank, and I was like, that's not a possibility for me. I have, like, 7 different thought trains at once. That's not gonna happen. And I was like, you know what, maybe I'll give it a try again. Like, it's impossible for me to sit there and want to focus on school, so I was like, maybe this will help. And I was so excited because I love Viselli as a coach, and I love him as a teacher too. So I was like, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna try. And when I did, I was like, this is the best class ever. And he was like, you guys can switch into semester 2. And I was like, immediately done. Immediately went to my counselor and I switched in.
We'll strike that from the record. Well, Lyric, I think you are such a wonderful spokesperson for this work, and I'm somebody that understands the busy mind, and so I think for how you put it and discuss it, I think it could be so important and valuable to have your voice talk to other students about the benefit, because you're not alone, and we talk a lot up here about the anxiety and depression and the rise of that. So kudos to you for taking the class, and you know what I think of you, Mr. Viselli. Love you dearly. And I think that the coach Viselli is quite a different person from the meditation Viselli, isn't it?
Not too different.
Really? Okay. He has shoes on tonight. That's good. Thank you both very much.
If I may add.
Yeah, of course.
I asked Andrew to come to the district leadership team. Actually, he suggested it, and I wholeheartedly agreed. I'm a big fan of meditation and trying to meditate pretty regularly. And so we did a meditation exercise yesterday in our first meeting, back in the new year.
With
Well,
your
actually, it's our
leadership
second
team.
meeting in the first year, in the new year. But it was nice, and it was, I think, worthwhile. We certainly learned a little bit about meditation and talked a little bit afterwards about it. So I hope to offer it a little bit more often to leadership. Some superintendents in the state are offering this as part of their leadership practice with their leaders on a regular basis. So we'll see if there's enough taking, and perhaps we'll make it something regular.
I'd love to see that happen. Well, thank you both.
Thank
you. Can we include school committee as well in that? All right, moving on to our budget presentations. We'll invite Nantucket Elementary School to come up first. Kim Kubish.
Aren't we all going to stand in a nice line like we just did for? No, but I think that this will be, you could all be standing in the line. Hi,
Hi,
I'm
Kim.
Kim Kubish, principal of Nantucket Elementary School. And I'm pleased to stand before you and say, I would just like the roll forward budget.
So no new additions.
No new additions.
No new additions. We have talked about having the roll forward would enable us, because you know this happens to us every year. We are never sure what the kindergarten class will be.
Right.
And then we know we get students for first grade coming into our school. We have been getting some for second, which was not as predicted. So we currently have about 90 kindergarten students who came to registration. And we know that grows over the year. But what we will be doing is looking at enrollment numbers. And then with the roll forward, that will enable us to potentially get interventionists for whether it be reading or math, maybe another science person, but to have the roll forward of our staffing will enable us to do that.
That's terrific. Any questions concerning the roll forward? No? All right. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Donna Johnson again, assistant principal at NIS, and I'm here for Becky Janda, and I'm so thankful that Martin is here to answer any of those nitty-gritty questions, because they really built this together. When you look at our budget, you'll see the pictures of our kids learning. There's some math workshop. They're getting books at the bookmobile, and our fifth graders are listening to a presentation from a community partner. Our intermediate school budget is 15% of the district's budget, and of that, 97% is taken, is used with payroll. We also are not adding any positions, but there are some shifts due to enrollment. We are going to be reducing the number of fifth grade classrooms that we have from 6 to 5, because we currently have fourth grade classes, and our fourth grade will need to go up to 6. We are also using one of our existing positions to advertise and hopefully hire another science STEM teacher, similar to what we have with Annie Weber. And the thought behind this is to not only support our science scores and students' aptitude to learn science and those standards, but also right now we're using our guidance counselors as specials teachers teaching the SEL curriculum, and we just wanted them to have more flexibility. We're seeing some more demand for the need of small group work and some individual support with students, and sometimes being locked into 45-minute classes a couple times a day can be really tough. So they're going to be doing tier 1 in more of a morning meeting setting with our classes, and then freeing up some of their time in the afternoon to really support our kids. at the same time, our kids love STEM. So I'm sure that they will be thrilled to have another hands-on experience. This will also support our teachers. In elementary school, it's kind of hard to set up a science experiment when you're also planning for math workshop and reading and writing. So some of those bigger experiments can be supported by our STEM teachers. Did I miss anything?
Perfect.
Got it.
I think you did great.
Thank you.
Any questions for Donna?
Questions?
No? Thank you.
You didn't have anything.
Okay, Mr. Horton.
Good evening, Michael Horton, Cyrus Pierce Middle School principal. In your packets, you'll see on the cover 4 pictures in the top right corner of our students working in our 7th grade hallway. In the lower right is our grade 7-8 band at the December holiday concert. Lower left, that is a grade 8 science class. And top left for Dr. Lepre is the Cyrus Pierce Middle School football team celebrating their victory over the Vineyard at the Island Cup.
What was the
weekend.
score?
It's right there. You can see it. I don't need to repeat it, but they had second string players in the second half. Ended with a sack by Christopher Martinez, which was really fitting for his 8th grade career when the Vineyard finally got the ball back. As was stated earlier from NES, we are also just asking to roll forward our existing budget, of course with the normal payroll increases relative to the collective bargaining agreement. So no new additions. Similar to what Donna Johnson shared at NIS, there's always internal changes where if we have a very small 7th grade class, as they roll forward to 8th grade, we will have fewer positions in 8th grade, but we'll need those positions now in the 7th grade. So it might be look like 2 new teachers in grade 7, but 2 fewer teachers, positions-wise at least, in grade 8, but still a net 0 in terms of our request for rolling forward our existing budget. Any questions?
It's kind of hard to have a question with a roll forward, but any questions? No? Thank you, Michael.
Sure.
Mandy.
Here comes the bad news. So thank you again for allowing us to be part here. I wasn't really going to talk about our opening page, but if you take a look at that, it's all of our students. I think it's really important that we highlight our students. Really, that's the essence of our budget. We are asking for an increase in supplies, primarily because we do have an increase in students. We're at 599, I believe was the number I saw today. And that's down because it was like 602 2 weeks ago. So we're hovering right around 600. And one of the things that we're noticing is that we're having to start replacing equipment. For instance, in our carpentry classroom, Mr. Gerben has needed, we purchased new lathes to replace the older ones that are not working as well. I just talked to Martin today about replacing cameras in our digital photography classes. We now, with our 3rd art teacher that we added last year that we really truly appreciate, she goes through a lot more clay. So we are increasing our supply line because of our number of students and ensuring that we have the supplies needed to, meet their academic needs. As far as staffing, we are looking at a 0.5 guidance, but we're not looking at it as being, it's not really asking for additional staff, but rather repurposing and shifting roles that we have. It should not represent a significant increase in the budget. What we're we're looking at is that as our student population has increased, we have seen an increase in the need for social emotional support. One of the reasons why Mr. Viselli is offering the meditation class is to help support that. We're looking at offering, at least one more, possibly two more of those classes next year. And as the last time I believe I was here, we were talking about the DESE cohort for scheduling that we're in. One of the things that we've learned in that information is that our 9th grade students have represented the highest number of failures of classes. So we're looking with our additional support in the guidance office to offer more support to our 9th graders, some academic coaching to help them be more successful their 9th grade year, so they matriculate more successfully through the high school. And that's it.
Thank you. Any questions for Mandy?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
All right, we have Deb Gately coming up for special education.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, Deb.
I'm Deb Gately, Director of Special Services. With me tonight is Michelle Kadeem, Coordinator of Special Education. Interestingly enough, we continue to maintain the largest budget in the district, largely based on payroll for the number of staff that we have, but also, as you're well aware, special services encompasses special education, which includes all the entitlement services that are shown through the development of educational plans that we have to maintain and meet the need for. So with regard to that, I am happy to say that we are not requesting any additional positions this year. We are looking to roll over our current budget. But with that consideration, just as a reminder, we still have 4 unfilled positions, or pardon me, 5 unfilled positions. At the district level, we continue to have a school psychologist and physical therapist that we haven't been able to fill. And within the district, at the elementary, middle, and high school, there are also going to be 3 positions that have been maintained in the budget, but will be hopefully filled for next year that aren't currently. So we've done a lot of work to the credit of the building administrators this year in doing some scheduling. We are meeting the needs of the students, but it's been a pretty long haul to get there. Embedded again within our budget is a consideration for out-of-district placements. I know I will be presenting to you later on in this school year, but I wanted to just give you an update on that. With current placements for students that are Nantucket Public School students placed in out-of-district schools, the number currently is at 12. By the end of this school year, we will have 4 students that will either have aged out or simply graduated. And by the end of fiscal year 25, so the end of this budget for next year, we'll have an additional 4 that will have aged out or graduated. So best case scenario, one of the things that we can never account for in special services is the transfer of students into the district who require additional services, which would impact staffing, that I can never predict, kind of as the elementary school can't predict what kindergarten will bring in. I can't predict with students coming into the district. Of the 3 most recent out-of-district placements in the district, they are all resulting of families moving into the district. They weren't kids that we placed. So that's a consideration that always comes into the budget that we always keep an eye on. But other than that, there are no appreciable changes to what we're requesting for next year.
Thank you. Any questions for that? Thank you, Deb.
Fantastic, thank you.
Okay, we have Barbara coming up for English language learners.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm Barbara Cohen, Director of English Learner Services. And we have a couple of pictures there from our elementary schools of some of our L's in the packet there on the front page. And the numbers that I think we represented, this isn't my
No.
show here, I think it's on your papers there. The numbers we represented earlier when I presented to you on the EL program, we have out of 1,762 students, 326 are active English learners, which is 18.62% of the total population. And we're moving forward as well with no changes. We're fully staffed, and we, as you can see in the pie chart there, 97% of our budget goes to payroll. So things are looking good in your department. Thank you.
Thank you. I have to say, when I first saw the agenda, and I thought, good Lord, how are we going to sit through all of those budget presentations? Because Tim and I have been here long enough that we know, and you have too, that we could barely do 3 a night and not get home before 9. So thank you, everybody.
If I
Of course,
Chair,
yes.
I wanted to thank Martin, who has been instrumental in making sure that our budget is always balanced and certainly providing what the needs of our students are. I want to thank the leadership team, principals, everyone really for looking at what we have and considering that we're in a good place right now. Now, anything and everything can change. So,
Right.
but the point is, we've been very lucky, and the town has listened carefully to us also, and allowed us to have what we need to function appropriately, and to leave a little room for anything that might come up unexpectedly. So, thank you all.
Thank you. All right, moving on to committee discussions and votes to be taken. May I have an approval, please, for the donation from Force 5 to Sarah Pierce for $200?
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. May I have an approval for the December 5th, 2023 meeting minutes? All in favor? Thank you. May I have an approval, please, for the meeting minutes of January 9th, 2024?
Move approval.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Okay. You'll see on your agenda that the vote for the public comment, I did ask if we could move it because you have in your packet the public comment recommendations, and I know the policy committee went through that. Beth, would you like to?
Sure. So, as you may know, our policies are updated fairly regularly, at least every 3 years, and we look at any sort of policy changes that come through MASC, which is the Massachusetts Association of School Committees. And recently, there has been a lot of discussion around public comment at school committee meetings. Those of you who attended the MASS conference in November will remember that there was some discussion. We had, I think Dr. Lepper and I attended a session where they did talk about what happens when public comment becomes challenging. So the MASC made some adjustments to their policy and provided recommendations. We looked at in our most recent policy meeting, we looked at all of the B policies and this included public comments. So this was an important one for us to make sure that we considered. The policy subcommittee recommended adopting language directly out of the MASC policy that was provided, and you will see that in red. So the red language is what we added in our current policy, and the cross-throughs is what we are removing from our current policy. So this is, again, at the recommendation of MASC, so it is directly related to the policy that was brought forward by them. I'm happy to answer any specific questions, but for the most part, it's pretty clear here, and can certainly through the chair, open up the discussion.
Does anyone have any questions on the changes? I just have something that I wanted to bring up. I see that the recommendation is that for any individual that wants to have public comment, that they would sign up before the meeting. So I was just curious how we would do that, whether that would be, that they would sign up here, or would they sign up with Katie ahead of time? Just because I know public comment is the very first thing on the agenda, and often people are coming in from work and they get here just in time to do that. So I think if that's going to be a big change, we need to really go out and advertise that. Not that public comment is huge, but when there is an issue, we've seen it, right? We know that the auditorium or the AGI can be full. So I would hate to just change it up without plenty of warning and a good system in place that someone, I'm thinking probably it's better to have them sign up at the central office prior to the meeting so that we know ahead of time, because otherwise they'd be up there signing up and we'd have, what would be the purpose of asking them to sign up if we, you know,
If I may, I'm hoping, Chantal, do you remember what some of our discussion was? Laura, who's not here tonight, was also part of our subcommittee meeting. I'm trying to remember what our reasoning was behind having sign up, other than just to have things go a little bit more smoothly so that we're aware of who is coming and we have a number. We can also, it can also help us to determine the time and how to accommodate if there's a large contingent of people coming for public comment.
It was we decided that public comment section was going to be a set period of time as opposed to having people talk for 3 hours for public comment. So if we allowed them the opportunity to sign up, giving them a maximum of 3 minutes, hopefully they would be respectful that you have 3 minutes. Don't try to take 20 minutes.
right.
That's taking all the time from everyone else, and it's also accountability. If you sign up ahead of time, we know who's coming and
Right.
can prepare.
Okay.
I don't think we went into a deeper discussion as to whether or not they would sign up in the front office versus signing up.
And would they need to present what they were intending to like the subject? Because I know it has to be on the agenda.
Exactly.
So
It has to be on the agenda anyway, about agenda
Right.
items. They can't come in and talk about.
So there would be a
school
place that they
lunches if
might
it's
be
not
able to
there.
say whatever it would be.
If they so choose,
Traffic
but they don't
or
have to tell us
parking or-
exactly what they're talking about, as
Okay.
long as they stick to the agenda items.
And again, I would just say if that is the committee's wish, I think we just need to be very mindful that that's changing it significantly and that we should make sure we get that information out. The only other question I had too was the change is that public comment, and it's always been up to the chair if they have wished for or allowed public comment during later part of the meeting. And I think from what I've seen in my years, it's used seldom, but when it's used, it's helpful for information. And I see that that's been removed. So I would love to know why that was taken out, what was part of the conversation of only having public comment just at the beginning and not allowing the chair to move it, or not move it, but allow for an additional public comment later. That was all. That's my only two questions.
Public comment is for members of the public to share their concerns or thoughts with us. It's not for us to have a conversation with them
Right.
about it. So if we keep it at the start of the meeting, it helps just keep things a little bit smoother. They come in, they speak, they're welcome to stay if they'd like or leave, but it's not fair to ask people to stay till the end of, Lord knows, sometimes our agendas can be long before they can speak, if we want to be respectful of people's time.
Right. I think when we've used it in the past, and in fact we had an example after the athletic building was presented. It was an official public comment, but there was a comment that was important to our discussion or what we did later. So I'm not suggesting that we wait and say public comment and wait until your agenda item, but I would hate to remove the opportunity for the flexibility for the chair to recognize if there are 10 people here or one person here, but they would like to make a comment that they maybe didn't even realize was coming up in our discussion, that we could if we felt it was appropriate. That's all. That I just hate to take it away.
But I think it's the discretion of
It is
chairman.
It is currently, but it's been struck from this, saying that they wouldn't
We don't
be
have
able
to
to. That's
cross
what I'm.
ourselves with that document?
If I may, I think the reason why it was removed was again to eliminate the, to keep public comment as a contained and specific time. Because as we know, public comment is not a back and forth. It is,
No.
and so having a person, I mean, the chair is always able to invite someone to the microphone to clarify, to ask a question. In the case of the situation around the athletic field, that was actually a bit of a mistake. It should have, that comment should have happened during the public comment
Mhm.
time, and yet
Right.
it didn't happen that way. So
Right.
we need to, I think it is our job also as a school committee and as myself as a superintendent to make sure we're educating people around what public comment is for and how we follow through with that, so that people understand they cannot necessarily be, unless the chair so wishes, to add a public comment when it was not part of the public comment time. I mean, I think that the chair will always have the ability to call someone to the microphone for clarification or to answer a question. We do have that happen, especially with our district leadership team when we need clarification. So I think that was the reasoning behind. We do have only one person on our subcommittee who currently, who can speak to this. The other one may have more information. I don't know if we want to continue to keep this open. We can certainly open it for the vote and then allow for more discussion at our next meeting. And that way, if Laura is available, she can certainly speak to this as well.
I'll leave it to the committee, but I just think if we leave it, that it will always be the chair's the discretion. I just think the times I can think about it, it has been helpful for the public as well as for our discussions, and I would just hate to, if public comment was an issue for us and it was always something that we were looking and thinking, okay, we've got to cut it off, I might say something differently, but that hasn't been the case, only on occasional hot topic moments, and I just think it's a message we're putting out to the public that I don't think we need to.
If I will, part of our discussion was being proactive as opposed to reactive. So while we don't have contentious public comment sections, or maybe you guys have in the past and we haven't had it in a while, other school districts are really struggling with public comment sections being just downright nasty and disrespectful. And especially being at the MASS and MAS/MASC conference and meeting a lot of our fellow school committee members and learning about what they're going through in their districts. There's a reason that MASC put this out for us to, as suggestions and recommendations for us to adopt. No, we don't deal with those issues, but what happens in the event that it does happen and we don't have a clear policy in place to regulate the public comment section? So I think that's kind of where we were going with that. And yeah, I mean, I'm happy to roll it if Laura would like to add more comments to it, but we've spent a lot of time working on this, and I wholeheartedly believe in this and support this policy change.
No, when I was reading through it, they jumped out at me, and I just wanted to make sure that we had a discussion, and then we can vote on it next week. I'm fine leaving it for the next meeting, and then if Laura wants to share at that point, we can have the discussion. But
so through the chair, just to clarify for the sign up, I took it as we would just have a piece of paper here for community members to put their first and last name down, so we had record of who was going to speak the day of the meeting right here, not anything that needed to be in advance. It was more of, so what happened at the last meeting doesn't happen in the future.
okay, so that list would come in down here.
It would just,
At the beginning,
it could be
so
a piece
we
of paper,
would
just
know.
put their name if they're gonna speak, and they can even write their name afterwards, just so we have record of who is actually gonna speak.
Okay.
It didn't have to be anything,
So then
formal.
we'd call on them if they were on the list and they didn't
Correct.
stand up.
So it doesn't get missed or,
Okay.
If I may, it also helps with note taking. Occasionally people
Sure.
come up and
Yeah.
provide their name very quickly, and if it's someone that we're not familiar with.
Right.
In some districts, they do actually request that people give their addresses.
Yeah, we decided against that.
And we decided against it, yes, because it's a small community here.
Yeah.
Yes, that has been, that's something. I think at least having a name, and making sure we have the spelling correct, et cetera, for the notes and minutes, so.
Okay.
Having been on the committee long enough to remember meetings going to 11 o'clock at night and being yelled at repeatedly.
I'm sorry
But
I did that. No, sorry.
But I'm concerned that are we limiting the ability of the public to comment? For example, you don't make the list. You know, I just wonder if we are cutting out comments from the public, quite frankly. I mean, you gotta plan ahead, and sometimes people can't plan ahead or won't plan ahead.
So we kept the section that says that the chair has the latitude to entertain limited comments on certain issues and allowing for public comment to continue longer than the 15 minutes or roll a public comment over to future agenda if someone wanted to continue. So we kept it, despite the fact that we did define it as 15 minutes, we did also say that if we're having a spirited conversation and there are more people, the chair could make the decision to continue public comment section longer than that 15 minutes.
But I think you meant if somebody didn't realize they were going to speak and hadn't
Yes.
signed up, and then all of a sudden said, "Oh, I want to." Is that what you meant?
Yeah, I mean, that limits it to an extent. And
If I may, I don't think that we were I don't think that the policy subcommittee was trying to limit public comment, but just to record who was actually coming, because if someone walks in and public comment is in process, they can still put their name on the list and then come to speak, as long as it's within the time limit, unless the chair wants to extend that time limit based on who we have and what
Right.
we want.
I mean, we have printed, I think, on the agenda every time that it's limited to, I know we used to, 3 minutes and then it's limited to 15 minutes. But I just don't want to send the message out here that I think it's very difficult for some people to come and speak publicly, especially on television. So I would hate to make it harder or more difficult for them. But if you are okay keeping in that it's, up to the discretion of the chair, if somebody wants to speak or we feel like we have a question on something and it would be helpful to hear. I mean, often we have our staff that speak out that I think, we ask questions of. So I don't know. I'd like to keep that flexibility there, that's all.
I think that's a little different than what we're referring to as public comment, though. If there's an agenda item that we're discussing and we ask one of our staff for clarification on something, I think that's a little different than, let's say my dad walks, I'm not a student, my aunt walks, and she wants to comment on, I don't know, the football team. She has 3 minutes and and there are a host of other parents who would like to comment. She's limited to her 3 minutes and she needs to get off the stage and go sit down.
Right.
Sorry, Auntie Pam.
Yeah.
But and also if public comment has closed, we've gone through our public comment section. I don't think it's fair because someone showed up late that the chair should be able to reopen public comment later on in the agenda. If that's what you're.
No,
okay.
that's not it.
Just wanted to make sure I understood
No.
that.
No.
you could test it out by saying you're gonna drop the temperature of the pool 1 degree.
There we go. Oh, God.
No, it's not to give it, no, that's not it at all, to offer another opportunity. It's just, if we don't have it, that you have the opportunity, should it arise, should it be helpful for conversation, you could then say, I mean, I think I've done it once this year, and I can't remember what it was for now, but where you actually open up the public coming again, but.
I guess my concern is with I'm concerned with public comment section, or my concern with the public comment section is that it should never be a back and forth between school
No.
committee and
And it has
a member
happened,
of
and
the
that should
public.
not happen.
And but I just want to make sure that we're all clear about
Yeah.
that. I have no, and obviously we have to take this back and have the conversation
Yeah.
for her, because she's the other half of this,
Yeah.
the subcommittee. But I don't have a problem having it there that it could be at the discretion of the chair, as long as we're staying within the mask.
Right. And no, it
guidelines.
is not discussion, and as I say, we have it, I think, written down, so it's clear, but no, that's good. Well, thank you for walking through that. All right, we'll table that, sorry. Okay, may I have an approval, please, for transfers and invoices?
Move approval.
Have a second? All in favour? Thank you. Subcommittee work. Any meetings other than policy
than
meetings? I did not attend the last meeting that you had for the TA discussions and
I'm happy to
negotiations.
share that they are continuing and making good progress.
Terrific. Bruna, you're up.
We have the end of the quarter coming up on Friday. We have student-led conferences that start tomorrow. And there is a concert on Thursday at 6. That's it.
Concert at 6, so that's is that chorus and band, or?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
Let me just make sure with the...
Yes, it's 6 o'clock in the auditorium.
Of course.
Fabulous. All right, and then for our next meeting, which is February 6th, we will discuss student enrollment, mid-year updates.
Yes, the district improvement plan. We have our first year of our new district improvement plan. We'll be discussing some mid-year updates as we are at the midway point. Share with you a little bit about that. Our SRO officer, Kathy Thompson, will come to provide an overview of her program. The NES assessment presentation has been postponed, and the DEI presentation will happen in conjunction with the Nantucket Historical Association, Kamal McCarthy, and also a representative from NHA will be there to discuss an honorary diploma for Eunice Ross. So that will be that fair.
And did everyone get back to Katie on requests on having a workshop date? We were looking at meeting on the 31st.
31st or 30th?
30th, sorry.
30th is next Tuesday, yes.
So next Tuesday. And is everybody able to do that? Okay. So that would be at 6 o'clock? Is that your regular time? Okay.
We'll
Great.
let you know the location.
Thank you. All right. Well, if there's nothing else to report on, may I have a motion to adjourn? All in favour? Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Now you have to go back. I just got a text that they adjourned. Oh my god.
They adjourned?
Oh, that's earlier than last